So visa-wise, what would you say is a popular one that people are able to make the move with?
Yes, so I think for American clients, what we've seen in the last year is really that, look, the South African embassies in the US, they are quite good. They process applications mostly in 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes much faster. But I was wondering, so for you, obviously, with this whole Cape Town, Johannesburg comparison, right? What do you explain Joburg to or Johannesburg to when your family maybe asks, and what is Joburg like? What is Cape Town like? One of the typical misconceptions maybe of Americans. So a lot of Americans, when they first actually check in with me, they write to me and say, "Hi, I want to become a citizen of South Africa." And I'm like, "Oh, good luck." We're gonna have, and sometimes we're honest, we're like, "Look, we actually don't know. We have to try it out." Because it sometimes comes down to the individual working in the embassy, what they want to see. Get your head around certain documents you had to get, right? I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit, but some of the requirements we sent you, you were like, what do you want from me, right?
Exactly, right. And
because when I sometimes follow the visa forums that there are, I'm like, okay, cool, a lot of information, good information, but so much wrong information. Because people, there's also one last thing before we maybe come to an end now, what for everyone that's super excited now, one very important thing, you cannot lodge your application.
What's up, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Don't Keep Up with the Joneses. 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 What's up, beautiful people, to another episode of the Jones Family Channel. It's me, Ricky Jones Jr., and as you can see, I am not by myself. We have with us today none other than Miss Kristen, who is representing IB in the immigration service that I believe all should be a part of, all should come through, and you'll see why, right? We'll talk through in this conversation, but more importantly, what I am thankful for is this opportunity for IBN to come on the channel to give people information, to give people comfort, awareness, but then also insight, so you know who to go to when you're trying to make it on this side, right? So hello, Kristen, how are you doing today?
Hi, Ricky. I'm very good. Thanks for having me on your channel today. I'm very excited to be joining finally after all this time of speaking to you.
Right. I am as well, and I've seen videos you've done on the IBN YouTube channel. And so I say all that to say I'm excited for all the information, not only that you have, but the experience that you have to share with us. So we'll jump right in it because I've had various questions come my way by way of either email or comments on videos. And I'm sure people have reached out to you all about the move, right, from America or other countries, but specifically, we could talk about Americans coming over to South Africa, knowing and recognizing all of the beautiful things that are here. However, before we get into those things, what would you say is the popular way that people are able to make the move visa-wise, knowing that visas are important? We can't just come, live here, and move here without the proper, verification and paperwork and whatnot. So visa-wise, what would you say is a popular one that people are able to make the move with?
Yes, so I think for American clients, what we've seen in the last year is really that the retirement visa is the most common or easy way for the Americans to get into South Africa. Lots of you are probably confused now. You say, but I'm not retired. I'm not that old. Why are you talking about this? The beautiful thing is that for retirement visa into South Africa, there's no minimum age requirement. So I've had people as young as 27 move to South Africa on a retired visa based on the interest they were making on their savings and other cases like that. So the beauty is that there's no age requirement. The only requirement is that you have a passive income of 37,000 Rand per month. You know the exchange rate better. What is it roughly at the moment? What, 2,000 US dollar, 1,900 US dollar per month? That's currently with the exchange rate. And people do that with either rental income, dividends, interests, or obviously their pension, a lot of social security. We have a lot of people from the army that get that in compensation per month. And then one thing that also works in the US that we don't really advertise because a lot of other embassies don't allow it, but in the US they also allow you to apply with a lump sum, so with savings. So if you have the 37,000 Rand times 12 months times 4 years, which is the maximum duration of the visa. In savings, they also allow you to apply for the retired visa in the US, which is quite unique compared to other countries where the South African embassy is present. So that's also quite cool because some people might not have the passive income, but they have the savings. And then on that visa, like with any other category in South Africa, your spouse and your children can be attached to it and can move along with you to South Africa. So that's quite common. For those that don't have that, or are maybe not interested in the retired visa because they don't want to come just yet. They just maybe came here on a holiday, they really enjoyed it, and they say, look, in 2 to 3 years' time, we want to come. They then apply for, or they have other plans, you know, they might want to set up a business here in the long-term future or something like that. They then apply quite often for PR, permanent residency based on financial independence, for which you need to have a net worth of 12 million rand. So again, roughly, I think 570, 600,000 US dollar net worth, which doesn't need to be savings. It could also be your properties worldwide. It could be a boat you own, a plane you own. We've seen it all, stock portfolios. And then you can apply for PR, permanent residency straight based on your financial independence. The only hiccup there are the processing times. So the Home Affairs Office takes quite some time to process it. We're looking at 2, 3, 4 years of waiting, but a lot of our clients these days, after 8 months of waiting, take further legal actions, take Home Affairs to court and get then the PR in another 5 to 8 months, which is quite nice. So that's an option these days as well. So that's really the most common visas, but obviously there's also work visa options for which you always need a local employment. They are quite strict. There's something called a critical skills list. So that's very individual. So if there's anyone looking for employment in South Africa or got a job offer, we always say, look, send me your CV, send me your job offer and assess it case by case because it's very difficult to generalize it. Look, the remote worker visa, which probably lots of your clients have heard about or are interested in some way or another, has just finally launched after 4 years, I think, of waiting. So I think we're going to see quite some influx in inquiries regarding that because it's people that have a remote job. They just want to come here and work. It's now available for a period of up to 3 years, but it just launched. There's lots of question marks still around it, but we have some brave individuals who are happy to be the first ones to try it out. And we are busy preparing and submitting soon, which is quite nice. And then obviously a business visa, which is very interesting, I think, for Americans that want to set up a business in South Africa. So if you want to be a business owner, you need to have a business visa, for which you need to invest 5 million rand into either a new or existing business in South Africa. That's quite a cool option as well. I think the good thing is, I think a lot of people are worried that they need to transfer the money into the country before they apply for the visa. But all you need to show is that you have the money available in cash in your account at the time of application. Then you have to only transfer the money into the business within a year of arriving, which is quite cool. And look, it's quite a process as well. The Department of Trade and Industry is involved. But look, again, we can guide you, whoever it is, through all of this. And there are options. It's just, we often say it's a jungle out there and it's a case by case. And it really depends on the individual needs. But like I said, on all these visas, the family members can be attached. If the kids attend school, maybe that's, you know, I think sometimes also maybe a little bit of a surprise for some Americans. If the kids attend school, you need to have decided on the school beforehand because you need to get documents from the school. So you can't just say, okay, we move there and then we find a school. It doesn't work like that. So often the Americans and the parents come and check out some schools. There are American schools here, but there's also other beautiful other schools here in South Africa for the kids to attend. There is a possibility to change it in country, but it's a complete new application. So ideally you choose a school wisely before you actually submit the application.
Yes, no, phenomenal information, right? Starting off because And I say that being that, like us, before we made the move, we were doing our research and we were looking at things online. We went on the South African Embassy website and was looking at information there. And a lot of things were outdated. And so it had us confused. So then we started going through the YouTube search, right? To see what's available, what's going on. And as we saw various individuals either apply for visas and either get them or get rejected, we said to ourselves, there has to be another way, right? And that's why we tapped into what IBN has to offer, and then even allow for our case to be specific for us, because even in the options that you listed, the way we were able to get over wasn't even in the things that you said. But I say all that to say, that's why it's good to connect with you all. That's why it's good to reach out and do the assessment and then go
Mm.
along that way, because everybody's situation is unique,
Yeah.
from either having the monthly, revenue or a lump sum. Like those are two different people. And I
Mhm.
think a beautiful thing that you did just share is that with kids, they have to be, have a enrollment in a school in the process. And that was a fun part. Like, because for us, the thought is like, no, we'll just do it once we get here. Well, no, 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 no. Before you get here, there are things that needs to be done and completed. So I you said it well. You said it massively. You said it well. And even with the new visa option, right? Like, how do you think? How do you think that'll flow? How do you think that'll go as far as like duration of time from submitting to receiving an answer?
Look, the South African embassies in the US, they are quite good. They process applications mostly in 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes much faster.
Yeah.
Look, they keep your passport during this time, so that's always just an important thing to note. You have to actually let go of your passport. You have to submit in person, even though you get our assistance. So that's quite a thing. But some other embassies take much, much longer. So on a global side, it's quite reliable processing times that we are facing in the US.
Okay, that makes sense. And I'm glad you said that, because that was something that caught us by surprise of
Mm.
handing over our passports because, whoa, no, I mean, we're stuck, right? We're stuck in the States and really can't travel outside. So that was an adjustment for us. But then I will say, even in our process, we were able to reach out to you all in the duration of submitting to receiving, because we were thinking this is taking a little longer than we were expecting, right? And so in reaching out to you all, you were able to make some conversations and some calls, and then we were able to get it. So again, I'm just speaking of the benefits, right? As one who's gone through your services and things like that. And so would you say, knowing that you're located in Cape Town, do you think that it's ideal for people to visit in person, or is phone calls and emails sufficient for the interaction or exchange?
Look, I think if somebody's here in Cape Town, where I'm based, I always say, please come to the office and say hi, because we still like the personal interaction. But we're
Yes.
absolutely fine doing this via emails, phone call, WhatsApp calls, Teams calls, whatever the client prefers. That's good enough. We don't need to meet in person, it can all be done online, but we do love the personal interaction. And most of the time, the people actually come to us when they got the visa, and our office is directly situated on the way up the Table Mountain, so everyone drives past us, and they often
Okay.
pop in. We love it. We love to see the clients
Wow.
after. It's not needed for the application process.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool. Now, even with that, where would you say the majority of your clients end up on this side? Is it Cape Town or is it Johannesburg?
Interesting question. I would say normally when it comes to private individuals moving, it's Cape Town. They come to Cape Town, the Europeans, but the Americans all go to Johannesburg, which is, and for business, obviously, right? People for business, mostly they're sent for business there because the business hub is in Johannesburg. But
Mm.
our American clients, they go to Johannesburg and they love it. They absolutely love it. Which I think was for me, because they often ask me then Cape Town, Johannesburg. I said, look, I've been in Cape Town for many, many years. I'm originally from Germany, but I've fallen in love with Cape Town. And we often say, I think people either love Cape Town or they love Johannesburg. It's often it's not even it's it's either or. You
Yes.
don't make a decision. And that was for me, I think, one of the things when I was thinking, okay, because America is obviously so big, right?
Mm-hmm.
When would an American choose Johannesburg? When would they choose Cape Town? What
Yeah.
is it similar to, right? I mean, we had that discussion previously.
Yeah.
That was for me just so interesting because my American clients sometimes also ask me. I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my Americans just say to me, Johannesburg feels very much like home.
Yes.
They love the vibe.
Uh,
They love how alive it is.
yes.
Um, and it's less touristy than Cape Town, which can in the summer
Yeah.
months definitely be an advantage.
Mm,
And Cape Town, they also say Slaapstad, which is like sleeping city. So
okay.
there's a bit more of a vibe, I think, maybe happening in Johannesburg, and it's where it's happening, where Cape Town is more the maybe laid back, surfing, mountains, hiking, I think. But the Americans definitely Johannesburg, hands down.
Now, you piqued my interest because you said of how European clients will find themselves in Cape Town and a lot of the American clients in Johannesburg. What other countries, as of late or as of now or recently, have you all been helping to move over to South Africa?
Look, our majority is from Europe, so it's a lot of Germans, a lot of Dutch, Spanish picking
Wow.
up quite a bit, French, British. Um, we get Australians. Australians often family reunification, so it's South Africans that moved over to Australia, New Zealand, that now coming back home and bringing their spouses over. Look, the Indian market is more for work visas that come in for short-term work projects. Asian market slowly. We have a lovely Japanese client that we're currently working with who is very excited of promoting South Africa more for Japanese clients, which is very, very fun and exciting. Um, South America is also upcoming. I think a lot of people, what we've realized, come here for language schools,
Mm,
which we never really considered, but it's look, and I'm German now, so don't base it on my accent. It's a very different accent than the general South African. But South
yeah.
Africa in general is quite accent free
Yeah.
compared to now the US, UK, and for language students quite cheap.
Mm,
That's why you get a lot of South Americans and people from the Middle East also coming in here. So, I mean, if you walk through Cape Town, you hear so many different accents and languages, and often you don't even know where the people are from anymore. And couples are so mixed
yeah.
because this one grandpa came from here, and I see it, in my private life with my kids at the German school. There's never any couple just German or German South African. There's always a but, and which is very cool. It's an absolute melting pot down here.
Wow. So even with that in mind, right? Because for us as Americans, it's always great when we interact with others that speak other languages. And we know the importance of that for our kids. However, not often do we speak multiple languages. Like myself, it's pretty much English, dab or two of Spanish. However, what are some of the language schools that you would even recommend on this side in South Africa?
Look, so they come here for English, right? I mean, South Africa has 11 official languages, which is quite cool, I think. They
Yeah.
come here for English, hardly ever for any other language. Um,
Okay.
and it's really some of the, I think, the international ones that you have branches all over the world, those big
Uh,
ones. They
Also, they come here to learn English.
they come here to learn English, yes.
Okay, okay,
No,
I'm with you. I'm with
hardly ever. Look, sometimes students need to learn Afrikaans if they signed up at Stellenbosch University that is Afrikaans speaking. So some of our, especially African students, they come and say we need to learn Afrikaans to attend classes in Afrikaans, which is
you.
quite unusual. But that happens rarely. They really come here for English. They come here to
Okay,
learn English. Yes. Um,
okay,
but Ricky, I was wondering, so for you, obviously, it was this whole Cape Town, Johannesburg comparison, right?
yes,
What do you explain Joburg to or Johannesburg to when your family maybe asks, and what is Joburg like? What is Cape Town like? That for two people
yeah.
that only know the US, what does it compare to in the US maybe?
Absolutely. So it's cool because in our previous conversations, it spawned a
Mm,
whole video, right? So we did a video specifically talking about the comparisons and
mm,
similarities of cities. However, for me, a lot of my family are in the East. They're on the East Coast of the States. And so we've likened Johannesburg to like Atlanta, being that Atlanta is is a metropolis. There's so many different parts and things that you can find yourself in one suburb that is uniquely different from another suburb, but each suburb has everything that it needs, right? Similar to here in Johannesburg, whereas you can have Sanson that has everything that you need, right? From malls to schools to hospitals galore. And then you can go down the street to Rosebank and find the same things uniquely there, from Waterfall, and the list goes on. So Atlanta is pretty much like, it gives you that feel. We understand how people can say New York is similar to Johannesburg, with the stock exchange being in New
Mm.
York as well as here in Joburg, and the melting pots of people that are here in Johannesburg similar to New York. So we can understand that comparison. However, on the Cape Town side, we liken it to a Malibu or Manhattan Beach or any of the coastal type areas in California specifically.
Okay.
Crystal said it kind of reminds her of Miami, which I don't see it, but everybody has their perspective. However, Malibu gives you that scenic drive capability that Cape Town has, with the water on one side, the mountain on the other side, which can be nerve-wracking if you've never experienced it. And outside of those things, you have the beach, you have the water. And in Cape Town, when we went, the water was kind of cold, which resembles some of the water spaces and places in California. Whereas in, like, on the East Coast, you'll have a warmer type water, your Miami's and other beaches along the coast of Florida, which is like Durban, which I
Mm.
understand the water there is warm, being that it's on the, Indian Ocean. So all that to say, if, to your point, if you're coming from the States, there are so many places you could find yourself in within South Africa, just depending on what you want. What do you want to
Mm.
see when you look out your window? What do you want to be able to do in a short drive, right? Because you can't drive. Well, you can, but I wouldn't recommend you drive from Johannesburg to Cape Town or Cape Town to Johannesburg. So what do you want in close proximity to where you
Mhm.
are, which will land you to wherever you find home? And
Mhm.
so we've met people from the States that said, "Oh, I want to be in Cape Town. Like, I love the water, I love the mountains, and I love the opportunity there." However, to your point, the majority of people have found themselves here in Johannesburg and have built a community around
Mm.
that. So that's how we've made those comparisons, even through conversations we've had with people while here.
Mm. No, I see that.
Hmm.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
so I know you said that there's a large German population that is in Cape Town,
Yes.
which caught me by surprise, right? And even with that, and knowing that Cape Town is even like a melting pot, which Johannesburg is as well, my question is, like, what is it like for you all in Cape Town around December? Because here, I won't say ghost town, but people pretty much leave to go back to where they are from specifically. But what is life like in Cape Town in December months?
In South Africa, they would say hectic, crazy.
Yeah.
It's extremely full. So we don't only get the out of towners, which we call the people from Johannesburg, we get the international travelers. So, your
Okay.
favorite restaurant, you all of a sudden can't go to anymore. You need a booking. The beaches get full. You have traffic jams that we're all not used to. And all we do is we say, it's over soon. It's just a few more weeks. It's just the festive season, the silly season, as they call it. And a lot of Cape Town people go to the holiday homes along the coast during that time. Or people like us just join with their friends into their holiday homes. So
Yes.
you go to
Yes.
the more quieter places around the garden route, Hermanus side. I mean, if you look at a map, there's so much coast in South Africa, right?
Yes.
There's so many beautiful
Yes.
places that you can go to, but it gets busy, and we have, more and more clients that come. They used to come only in the very busy season, in the middle of summer, right? In the December, the
Yes.
January, and they now come. Now we had a beautiful May in South Africa, beautiful May, and
Yes.
they loved it. They said to me, "Why did I never come in off season before? Because it's so beautiful." I mean, safari is much better in the winter months, and our winter
Mm,
months, so winter coming up now, June, July. That's
yes.
better, much better for game viewing. So I
Mm,
think, there's I think it's the shoulder seasons, as they call them, are going to become much, much more popular in South Africa, as Cape Town or South Africa in general becomes quite busy over their summer months. Yes.
that makes sense. That makes sense. And even as you were talking, I started thinking back to our conversation around like the visas and things like that.
Mm.
Largely because, IBN, they are the go-to immigration solutions services, right? I stand by them and love all that they have. And what I know to be a topic of discussion, right? From people moving from the States, people moving, from other countries that we've been in conversation with is knowing that when a child comes, right, and they are here with a student visa and they have a school that they're going to, what usually or what can happen once they graduate, right? And they're considered an adult. Do they have to go through a visa process again for themselves, or what happens once they turn 18?
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting topic, very much in line with one of the typical misconceptions maybe of Americans. So a lot of Americans, when they first actually check in with me, they write to me and say, "Hi, I want to become a citizen of South Africa." And I'm like, "Oh, good luck. We're gonna wait a few years for that." Just as
Yes.
an example, I've been here for 14 years. I just last year became a permanent resident. I'm still waiting for my ID. I'm still years away from my permanent residency, right? Look, specific case,
Wow.
married to a South African, all took a bit longer, right? But then I laugh when people say to me they want to come, not laugh, smile when I hear people want to come as a citizen. And that is very much in line with what you said now. A lot of people believe because they're here now and they have the child has a visa, they are good to stay after a certain amount of years. Say they've been on a study visa for 5 years, why can I not just stay? So if the parents didn't do anything regarding a permanent residency application in the meantime, the child will, once done with studying, qualify on their own. So they could obviously sign up for tertiary educations, join a university, but even then, just because you have been in the country for X amount of years doesn't give you any right to permanent residency or to any work visa. So they would have to qualify on their own. And then, as I said in the beginning, it's very much depending on the education, on the skills, on the job offer. So I always urge, parents that if they want to stay, if there's just a chance that they might stay, the kids might stay longer, they should sort it out as soon as possible. Also, very much a lot of Americans believe that if they have a child born here, the child is automatically a citizen. No.
Oh,
The child is not even a permanent resident. The child will be born and still have to apply for what we call a landing. So a visa immediately to be attached to the parents' application. Even if the parents are permanent residents, the kid is not automatically a permanent resident. It still has to apply. So that's one of the big misconceptions because it's so different in the US. And I think just
yes.
because in the US, obviously, if you're born there as a foreigner, if I had a child now in the US, my child would be American citizen. America is one of the very, very few, if not only country in the world that does it like that. But that's why, because we all watch American TV, we all believe it's like that.
Yes.
It took me a long time to realize it's not. And then even the citizenship, if people want it, it always depends on your country. Does your country allow dual citizenship? Germany necessarily doesn't, not through naturalization, the way that would be for me. So I don't want to give up my German passport. So I'm never going to be a South African citizen, which hurts, on days like 2 days ago when it was elections and you're not allowed to vote, which is quite sad.
Yes. Yes.
But otherwise, as a permanent resident, you can do whatever you want. Not okay
Mm.
within the law.
Yes.
But
Yes.
you can buy vehicles, you can buy houses, you get loans, you can apply for government jobs as a permanent resident, which at the end of the day, other than the election, is all you want.
Mm.
But I know you were struggling with some of these things, right? Whenever we're
That's
talking about
right.
us and all of that. What were things for you maybe? Because obviously I was very young when I moved here. I came straight out of university. I never owned a house in Germany or Europe. I never owned a car that I bought myself.
Yes.
So I had to learn a lot of things, but I didn't know different. So what were for you maybe things also where you say that is important for us from an immigration side to maybe warn the Americans when they come here that are very different to what you're used to from back in the States?
Yeah, so I would say for housing, so we are renting an apartment. And one of the things that we are now aware of is that in order to rent out an apartment, most often you have to pay the whole term agreement up front. And so rarely can you find situations or opportunities where you pay monthly, which is the norm or the standard in the States. You have to most often now pay the full lease agreement, whether it's 6 months, 9 months, or 12 up front. And so that's very cash gone, right? And so it catch you by surprise initially, as that could be the agreement. And then even with cars, that's another thing. With us coming here, not having a record or a credit history or anything like that, we had to purchase our vehicle outright. 100% cash through wire transfer. And so that was something that caught us by surprise as well, because, you know, you come with the idea that I have this cash, I can live my life accordingly and not have to spend it all at one time. But no, 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 no. Most often you will. And so those two most often are the largest purchasing things that you will do once you touch down or land here. And so just making sure clients know that that may be the situation, it gives us the mindset to know once we do arrive or we do come, or as we're going through the process, that's what it is. And it's not anyone trying to take advantage of you. It's not anything like that. That's just the way. And once you're on this side, you recognize, okay, Johannesburg, South Africa, Cape Town in general is a melting pot from people around the world, and not everyone will do the right thing. And so in order to protect the interests of the company, they just want their money. So I get it, right? However, it's a shocker initially, but prayerfully and ideally, you're not coming over without the necessary funds to be able to do certain things like that. And so that was a thing. That was a thing. But outside of those things, the schools work well. They allow for you to pay monthly. And here, which is not like the States, it's big on like EFT, which I don't even know what EFT stands for to this day. Even though I've been here
Electric funds transfer. Electronic
there it
funds
is.
transfer, yes.
There it is. I might remember it tomorrow, but ultimately, I see EFT and SnapScan a little bit of everywhere. I'm thinking, I've never heard those terms. I've never used those paying ways. And so that was something that I had to get introduced to and aware of, and not necessarily just cash or let me just tap my phone and pay that way. In the States, we're used to like Cash App or Zelle, things like that, which haven't made it here just now. And oh, another one, the banking world, I'm gonna call it, is so in depth. So many things can be done with your bank account that is very overwhelming for little Americans like us, because in the States, we're just used to making deposits, withdrawals, and maybe transfers or whatnot, like wire transfers. But here you can do so much that I don't even know.
My favorite two are probably still that you can send money via SMS basically. So you can send somebody a PIN. They can go to an ATM, put in the PIN and take out the cash. Mind blowing. Another one, and Germany is a big cash now, but my husband would often, when the lights go off because we have prepaid electricity, he would buy electricity via his cell phone app, was it via the banking app, which is, you know, and then the lights go on again after he put in the number in his banking app and we have light again. So our banking system is quite complex. Like you're right, a lot of places don't take cash, which my German mom, who was very cash heavy, had to learn the hard way when the granddaughter was licking the ice cream already and she had no cash. She only had cash and it was a cashless. So those things happen quite a bit in South Africa. So very advanced, I think, when it comes to apps for payments, cashless, also look for safety some often as well. But it's good for everyone involved. I mean, we hardly ever carry cash, you know.
Right.
Which
That's
is cool.
very true. I used cash in a recent payment and I was charged 3.5% for using cash. And I'm like, whoa. In the States, you, in some cases, would be charged for using a card. Whereas in cash, nobody would charge you for. I was charged here for using rands. And I'm like, hold on. Don't you want your money? And she was like, no, we don't. Because of security purposes and things like that was explained to me. However, I was shocked by that charge, or well, I did get charged because I wanted to pay cash. And so to your point, so very true. And that is something people will have to get accustomed to on this side that you don't do in the States, using your banking to pay for different bills, whether it's your lighting or your gas and things like that. Because on the state side, we would pay the electric company outright. Like they would have a website that we would put money on, as opposed to here, you do it through your banking details and whatnot. So that's interesting. And I've even been at a friend's home that lights went out. And the question was, it wasn't load shedding. Okay. So people that's thinking that it wasn't load shedding. Thankfully, we haven't had it in a long time, and we'll hope that it stays that way. However, he spoke to his wife like, hey, did you pay the bill? Did you, prepay? And she was like, oh, I forgot. Did it right quick. Boop, 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 boop. Lights came on, which in the States, it doesn't happen that fast. Like it's not that responsive. But again, to your point of how in depth and how intricate the systems operate and the systems are, it's amazing. I'm mesmerized and captivated by the technical advances that are here that I believe most often people won't think are here because of what's been said about the continent as a whole, which when they visit, they'll recognize that
Yes.
South Africa
I
is
think we
very,
have, I mean, when I look at all my family, that was obviously terrified about me moving as a young girl to South Africa, then falling in love and staying here. And
yes,
everyone that has come to visit is now a regular, coming to visit every December, January, again, and to a
yep,
point where we joke that we are fully booked at our home because everybody comes. And a lot of people that even years ago thought I was crazy for moving here are now like inquiring. Friends are inquiring here because they want to just live a little more, to
yes,
really enjoy life and live life to the fullest. And they
yes,
see that, from what I post on social media, yes, we don't have as many leave days. Okay, I know US, you also have very little, but I don't have any many leave days here as my friends in Germany have. But our weekends are
yes,
like a holiday. I just booked for September, booked a trip to Kruger National Park with my family that's coming. My small
nice,
kids are more used to safari holidays than they are to beach. Okay, we live on the beach, but then they are to beach or mountain holidays. That's their go-to holiday. And it's beautiful to be able to give them that opportunity, and they love it, and it's their favorite thing. And they're small, and they sit in the car for 12 hours with their binoculars, little cameras, and are extremely excited. So those are
yes,
things. I think we haven't even spoken about the wildlife, right, that South Africa has to offer. And I mean
it's
that
true.
in its own is its own world. So I think,
Mhm.
look, from what I've seen, so many people in these days, they're coming because they also want to get away from where they are.
Yes,
They want to get, so
yes,
in the past, it's a more pushing factor even. They're being pushed out of the US, they're being pushed out of Europe, and they want to come to South Africa. And they often
mhm,
first come and say they want to try it out for a year, and then they see the business opportunities they have, right? Of what they can, what a difference they can make with their work, and how quickly they can, when they're employed somewhere, rise through the ranks. Because it's not, hierarchy is not really, like, it's not about your age. You're good, you get the job. Where in some bigger European organizations, maybe they say, look, you're still too young, there's more senior people, you're the best, you get the job. And I think that's what people love. And for us, we always joke, because yes, we're called IBN Immigration Solutions, but that's really what we do. I mean, look, some people, I say, look, it doesn't work, or maybe do this and this and that, study first.
mhm,
Some people don't know they can work on a study visa for up to 20 hours a day. So if you really want that job, you have a job offer, but you don't have the experience, okay, and the right qualifications, study, work there already. So we really look at it individually, and that's why videos like this are also quite difficult, right? Because there's not one fit for all, and even
right,
every single embassy is different, right? What I'm now talking to you about, the age requirement, would not work in Germany, because the African embassy in Germany says, well, you need to be 60, so that's why it's so individual. And I always encourage people as well, yes, read, inform yourself, but
yes,
remember, often the information is outdated. Often somebody's individual case was different to what your case is. So, please read up, please inform yourself, look at videos, but then come to speak to someone, because it is
yes,
so, you might have missed one detail. There might be one thing you're not aware of. I had a very nice young client the other day who spoke to me, and he was very convinced he could do his application by himself. And I was like, cool, do that. And then a few weeks later, he's like, oh, look, I got rejected. And can I come to you again? And it's like, okay, we're still at the no charging stage. I was like, yes, come back to me. We're sitting here, and I was like, look, the embassy was right, and his documents were not wrong. He went according to the checklist, but there were little things, you know, that he didn't prepare properly that we could have fixed, you know. So I was like, look, we can fix this. You can still submit this again, but he's not traumatized by the embassy, you know. I said, no, you didn't have to.
Right.
But it's because the checklist, we always say there's the Act and Regulations, South African Immigration Act and Regulations. Then there's a checklist of the embassy, which is often not even aligned with the law. And then there's a practical experience. And that even sometimes I have to say on a call, look, I have to check with my team because they are the ones with a practical experience of preparing the applications.
Yes.
I need to see. And sometimes we're honest, we're like, look, we actually don't know. We have to try it out. Because it sometimes comes down to the individual working in the embassy, what they want to see, you know.
Yeah.
So we can just give the advice we can based on the experience. And we have over 1,000 submissions a year worldwide. And that's where we gain this experience from. And we work as a team and we share the information. You know, the one client might go and need a document no one ever needed before. We make a note of the system. We inform the rest of the team so that the next time we go, we know to bring this document, and then no one ever wants to see this because why would you bring this document? But that's a fun of immigration, right? It makes it extremely complex because there's so many embassies, we have so many nationalities, but it also makes it interesting for us. It's never the same. You know, every individual, every person's story is different. And that's what I think we love the most and about the work we do, that it's making a difference to the individual, but also learning so much from our clients. I mean, you know that from when we first chatted, it was so interesting to me what you were doing, right? As a family, how you're traveling, how your videos or your content. And I have a lot of clients, and I always say, and I learned so much from my clients. What they do, all the businesses they run, the jobs they have. It's so interesting, the personal stories. And then also you have to remember, often we stay in touch with them for years, right? They come as maybe on a work assignment first, they return to their home country, they contact us again because they loved it so much. They come with their families, they do temporary residence, permanent residency, they think they're sorted, another baby comes along, and then the whole process starts again. And then it's ID, you know, and then sometimes it's a citizenship. So there's so much, like sometimes we have our clients for 15, 20 years, you know, we are in touch with them, and they often then reach out to us years later because they lost their permanent residency certificate. So we're in touch again. But you know, with a lot, there's a great relationship over years, and obviously you know, it's not even a point of charging them for questions they have, you know, like it becomes more relationship that we rely on, and we get a lot of referrals, which we love, you know, which is from happy clients. That's the ultimatum, right? That's what you want. And it's good, you know, and that we get. And there are hiccups along the way sometimes, you know. I mean, I know you struggled, or you had to get your head around certain documents you had to get right. I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit, but some of the requirements we sent you, you were like, what do you want from me, right?
Exactly right. And even as one of the ones that have been through what you all have done, and even have a story, right, of how there were the checklist that we had. We printed everything out on a checklist. However, our immigration attorney said, just have this just in case. It's not a requirement, but sometimes they've asked of this. And there was another piece of document that was said, you know, maybe you should have this as well. So we went to the appointment in Washington, D.C., and sitting across the gentleman there, he looked through our checklist. Oh, you have this, you have this. Yep, yep. We worked through our immigration specialist and all. Oh, okay, okay. And then he asked, he said, well, I don't see, I forgot the name of the document. So, hey, go through the services and you'll know what you need. But nonetheless, do you have X document? We were like, he was like, we don't see it. We said, oh, yeah, yes, we have it for just in case and purposes like this. So we presented it to him. He said, oh, and then put it all together. And then he was like, wait, there's one form that I don't see. And we're like, oh, we were told that you may ask for this as well. We're able to present it. Oh, thank you. And we were able to submit it there. But I say all that to say of how, to your point, you may think that you can do it by yourself and think that you can go through a checklist on your own. However, there are different things that even us, once we finish our submitting process and all of that, we got back in touch with our attorney and told her, that form, yes, was asked for, and that other one was asked for. And she was like, okay, thank you. And I'm sure she shared it with you all as well as her colleagues. So to your point, being amongst that checks and balances is a peace of mind that I believe is worth the price of admission. However, on that checklist, one of the things was like an x-ray scan, something with your blood or your body. And I was thinking, what? Like, what? I'm healthy, I'm whole. Like, I get a physical check, okay. But then it was another more detailed x-ray or exam that was a part of the checklist. And when we went to our doctor, they were kind of taken aback by saying, I don't really want to do this x-ray on you. If possible, we shouldn't, right? Because of all of the rays and all of those things. He didn't want to do it to our bodies and whatnot. So we were able to do blood work and go through it that way and be able to submit it to show all was well. And we were healthy and whole, vibrant and active all at the same time. And so, that was one of those things that caught us by surprise because, you just don't go to the doctor and say, I need an x-ray, right? There's nothing wrong.
Good news on that, Ricky. They got away with it. Maybe your YouTube videos were good and you shouted out loud and clear that it's useless. So they've stopped that. You still need your general GP physician test, but you do no longer need the radiological report. They stopped that last year, luckily, because like you said, they want to check if people had TB, but you also still needed it for your renewal, which made little sense because at the time when I did my last X-ray here, I'd been living here for 12 years. If I had TB, it was from here. What are you going to do? Are you going to send me out of the country with my kids? So they luckily stopped that. But yes, I agree with you. That was one of the things a lot of people, because also I know in the States, and maybe that's still also one piece of advice to your American listeners, please, please, please don't pay an arm and a leg when you get your medical done. The American doctors sometimes charge so much, where I think it's cheaper to fly to South Africa and have it done here for $50. I've seen some clients pay $600. And that's where I think often our value comes in, right? Because also sometimes when it comes to translations, which is not really relevant for Americans, but I'm like, no, you don't need this. And, if you tell me your doctor is going to charge you $600, is this correct? I'm going to tell you to go search for another doctor. And when it comes to immigration services, whether to use them or not, I think in the end of the day, it's a very personal decision. But I always say, when you relocate, there's so much you need to worry about. You have to pack up your old house. You have to sort out the kids, the schooling, everything you have to. If immigration falls apart, nothing is going to happen. Yes, you might not have a house, you stay in a hotel first. That can be sorted, Yes, your suitcases didn't arrive, you buy your new stuff. If you don't have your visa, you're not going to move. That is the one you can't negotiate your visa. That's why it's so important, and it can become so costly, especially in the States where the distances are far. Fly to New York or you fly to Washington, LA for your submission. You're missing one or two documents because the documents you were missing that you had, the normal American wouldn't know because they still use old application forms sometimes.
Yes.
And we know that. That's why we fill out the application form. We fill the new application form, the old application form, just in case. And a normal person, or like somebody that lacks experience, doesn't know. So that's what I always say in the bigger schemes. And a move is so incredibly expensive, right? If you consider everything.
Yes.
Get it sorted, get the tick, let somebody else be it, and you're going to save so much time because yes, you might be able to get to the answers yourself, right? Yes, but it's a lot of research that you spend, and then you doubt yourself because when I sometimes follow the visa forums that I'm like, okay, cool, a lot of information, good information, but so much wrong information because people write what they experienced, and I'm like. And then they forget, like I said, the 30% that is actually very specific to their case. And a client of mine once put it very nicely. And she said, look, I can fly economy, I can fly business, let me do the visa, my visa application, I want to be done business class. I don't want to be sorting out myself. And it's the same like tax. I don't want to do my own tax. I could do my own tax, not want to do my own tax. Let the expert do it. And I think that's what people just consider it. Certain services that are so important.
Yep.
Where people that have pets, right? There's pet relocation.
Yes.
Most tries to do their own pet relocation because you love your pet. You don't want your pet to be stuck. There you easily pay for the service. So pay for yourself, right? That's what I often think because nobody doubts when it comes to the pets.
No.
So exactly.
No, I agree. I totally agree because, like I said in the beginning, we had the option of trying to figure out piecemeal and contort it like Frankenstein, put it together ourselves. But after we realized how things were done and how the unknown is that route, we was like, no, we should go with somebody that not only has experience, but also is from the country that I'm looking to go to and move to, that has all the information of the law and experience of others. It was a no-brainer. And so once we went through the process, it made it easier, it made it more peaceful and enjoyable. And we didn't have fears or worries going to the embassy because we knew everything was laid out the way it needed to be as it was sent to us. Print this out, make sure this and this and this and this, like everything in our folder to submit was told to us of not only what you may need, but the order that it needs to be in, because order matters, right? That's another thing that we learned from you all. And not only that, but the extra things that we were unaware of that could potentially be a part of the application we were aware of due to your services. So to your point, we don't do our taxes either. And so we have an accountant for that. We didn't handle our immigration paperwork. We have you all for that. And I believe that as more people start to make the move, more people start considering South Africa as a destination, either for a short term or for a long term, they'll recognize and know that IBN is the way to do so. And so I even suggest for those that may have questions that weren't brought up during this conversation to drop them in the comments, and hopefully we can get Miss Kristen back and on the channel and before us to be able to either answer those questions or point us in the right directions, because I believe that this conversation is a good one and it's beneficial because people are considering South Africa as their home. They're considering as this to be a place where they can get away, to your point that you already made, and making sure the visa is intact and secured is necessary, because if not, there you want to enjoy it, right? Because there are some that say, I'll just come anyway, but it's not an enjoyable experience. However, we are able to do so many more things, right? Especially with kids. And if I could say a last tip, if you have kids, they need a visa, right? They can't do school without a visa. Even with their insurance and things like that, it was linked to their school, or it is linked to their school. So all that to say, like, if you have kids, a visa is vitally necessary. And to your point, we do it for pets. We have to do it for your kids. And so might as well do it for the adults that's coming with the kids, because it just will make your life so much smoother, so much easier, and possible, truth be told, because I don't even know our kids wouldn't even be able to be enrolled without a visa, right? We had to submit it. And then we weren't able to get the visa without them being enrolled in school. So it's like, it's
And maybe
amazing.
just also one last thing before we maybe come to an end now, what for everyone that's super excited now, one very important thing, you cannot lodge your application here in South Africa. So everything needs to be done via the South African embassy in the US. Please remember that, because that's one of the big misconceptions as well. People are like, we are so happy to start, and they're here and they arrived on their tourist visa and they saw it because they maybe came on a holiday, they loved it. And I'm like, no, guys. And they're like, what do you mean I need to fly back to the States and submit? Said yes, and render your passport and wait 6 to 8 weeks. So please, 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 think about that as well. That's a big thing for us.
Yeah.
That it's just not the other way around, and that's hardly anywhere, I think, like that in the world. You always need to apply through your home country and wait for approval and then come in. Very, very important.
Hey, that is important, because I didn't even think about that, but I have heard people suggest that it would be quicker to do it on this side, but now we know the facts. It's impossible. It can't happen. Go back home and do it there, and then you'll be squared away from that point.
Again,
Or
there are exceptions, but I'm not covering that now. And it might be your special case, because if you're married to a South African, that's a different thing again. But in general, the rule is overseas.
yes. And if you have questions that weren't answered, there's a link down below that you can either go through and do the assessment to get an understanding of what you are and what you have on your side that will link you with the proper person on the IBN side, or you can reach out to them through the link and be able to get your questions answered or connected with a specialist that will be an aid for you. So again, Miss Kristen, I thank you for this time. I thank you for this opportunity. Very, very informative in so many ways. And you did it quickly, right? You gave us the information quick, and we had fun in between. So ultimately, I look forward to having you back with the various things that people may ask or things down below. And I'll always be attentive to questions as people email me, knowing where I can either send them to for the solution or ask you for that information. So fun times, good times. Thank you again to IBN, to Miss Kristen.
Thank you for having me, Ricky. And then I wish you all a good day. And I look forward to hearing from everyone and see how we can assist.
There it is. All right, great people. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.